Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, the administration has indicated that they support an effort to raise the liability cap that exists right now. I have legislation to raise it to $10 billion. I'm wondering, where is the administration at in terms of quantifying or supporting where they are ready to lift the liability cap to?
You know, the administration's position, Senator Menendez, is that the liability cap does have to be lifted, and we look forward to working with you and with other members of the Senate to determine what would be the appropriate liability cap. We did not put out a specific number, but I do believe that the current number is inadequate.
So what process are we going to work towards to try to determine what the liability cap should be? There are some who suggest there should be unlimited liability.
You know, I think that's something that does need to be worked through. You know, in this particular case, you have BP, which is, I believe, the third largest company in the world, making profits last year at $16 billion. So there are, and a willingness on the part of the chairman of the company and their executives to say these liability caps will not apply to this incident. And so that's important to recognize for this incident, which is where my focus has been. With respect to the future, it is important that we be thoughtful relative to that, what that cap will be, because you don't want only the BPs of the world to essentially be the ones that are involved in these efforts, that there are companies of lesser economic robustness. But having said that, it ought to be high enough so that we make sure that the responsible party will be able to live up to whatever consequences result from their activities.
Well,
I don't have a specific
I want to take off the last part of your answer, because there have been some, as we've tried to move this, who suggest that, well, not everybody's a BP. I understand that. But even independent entities have $40 billion worth. And you know, so the range is quite significant. The question becomes, regardless of your size, if you could create the potential risks that we have in this spill, and you could be the cause of this spill, does the size matter? Because in essence, we'd be saying, if you're smaller, you should have less liability. I don't think the American taxpayer would believe in that as a proposition. So at some point, the suggestion that too high a cap or an unlimited cap will hurt all of these other entities, well, that simply means that if you're smaller, you can get away with taking the same risk but having less liability. That certainly wouldn't be the administration's view.
No, not at all. People will be held accountable and responsible, and we want the environment restored and people to be compensated. And so we will work with you and other members of the Congress at getting to a number that makes sense and is not an arbitrary number.
One final question. BP certified to MMS that it had the, quote, this is on page 7-1 of its exploration plan for the lease sale that is the subject of the spill. It had, quote, capability to respond to a worst-case discharge resulting from the activities proposed in our exploration plan. Do you really think that BP was capable or had a real plan for the worst-case discharge? What I have seen is a series of unprecedented techniques trying to figure out what might or might not work. Some have failed, others having partial success, it seems. You know, do we really think that they had a plan B for the worst-case scenario, or are they going from pillar to post trying to figure out how they respond to this?
I'm going to have David comment on the specifics of the exploration plan, but I will just say this. There is a Herculean effort underway today, Senator Menendez, that I don't think this nation has ever seen, and it's unfolding 5,000 feet below the sea, and it's unfolding on shore with lots of people and lots of effort.
But if an entity tells you they are capable of responding to the worst-case discharge, I don't think anybody reasonably would believe that BP had a plan for the worst-case discharge.
Let me
I'm happy
say,
to listen
no,
to
let me,
that second.
there is actually a very coherent answer to that question that I could try with respect to the regional response effort and the numbers, but I think I will have David respond to it, because I think he, why don't you go ahead, David?
Senator, I think there are two aspects to your question, really. One is, was there a plan in place if the blow-up preventer failed and there was an inability to stop the leak? And certainly that has not been a happy story in terms of the ability to stop that leak. The broader question, though, in terms of a worst case, the spill response plan that's in place anticipated the resources available to cover a 250,000 barrel per day spill over a 30-day period, which is actually larger than the current spill. So in terms of spill response, there was and is a robust plan that is now being implemented. But I think your question went to the other issue also about the technology issues, which are obviously we're giving significant attention to today.